which is oliviaanddan.com.
I've got the giggles, sorry.
Oh my God.
I wonder what was going on. I was like, something going on out of view I can't see.
Yeah, I was trying to keep going, and then you were just starting to giggle next to me.
Hi, welcome to Meet the Makers, a video series where I put questions to creators from around the world about their videography and photography businesses, mainly in the wedding industry. But first, I want to share with you a short video about a workshop for videographers and photographers I have coming up later in the year. If you'd like to learn more about the workshop, there's more information in the description below. In today's episode, I'm speaking to wedding photographers Olivia and Dan, whose names you probably recognise from the workshop trailer you just watched. They're a husband and wife team based in London, but who shoot all over, particularly in Olivia's native Italy. Their work has a cinematic, nostalgic quality to it, something that I aspire to in my work, which is partly why we decided to collaborate on Obscura later this year. But let's jump straight in with question 1. Hi guys, thanks for joining me today. I'm going to go straight in with question 1. How did you get into photography in the first place?
So I've always loved photography since I was 16. I think that's when I started taking photos with film back then. And I fell in love with black and white photography. I was just snapping photos on my summer holidays at my grandparents' house in Italy, just taking photos, portraits of them and my friends and the countryside. And yeah, I don't know, I just fell in love with it. I can't really explain it more than that. I then studied it at school as well, and I did some courses in between university. And yeah, it's just always been in the kind of background of my life, and yeah.
For me, it started a little bit later. It was in my early 20s when I was traveling around Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand.
So did you have a proper camera with you when you were traveling, or was?
Yeah, it was. I forget actually what it was. It was an old Nikon. It was a digital SLR, but I can't remember which model it was. It was an old Nikon something.
Okay. What about you, Olivia? You said you shot on film. Was it just like
a really, really ancient Pentax that belonged to my mum?
I think we've still got that.
Yeah,
is it that one
it's
up there?
Okay, and so it was sort of a passion, a hobby you had. What made you actually start shooting weddings as a business?
So shortly after we met, what sort of brought us together was we realised we both shared this love of photography. So shortly after we got together, we put together like this really simple, basic website just to store some photos really, and they were kind of travel photos of
portraits.
Friends, family, yeah, exactly, portraits. And it was then when we started sharing that around a little bit with people that friends and family started asking us to shoot weddings, and then we realised after we'd done a couple,
yeah,
that we thought actually we quite enjoy it. We can be a little bit creative with it, and it just kind of grew from there.
And yeah, I mean, we were both kind of frustrated in our kind of day-to-day boring office jobs. And it was also at the same time when wedding photography was kind of changing, and it wasn't seen as this kind of like stuffy, cliche, cheesy kind of thing. It was actually, yeah, there was just a bit of a like rebirth in that sense, that it was kind of, I don't know, like it was kind of like being reinvented, and that was exciting, and it was cool to kind of like see it change, and we wanted to kind of be a part of that. And
yeah, we certainly saw weddings differently to like a digital bright photograph or day, like it felt like what we were shooting for our own like personal photography was kind of fitted and suited, and we thought there was something that we could do differently, really.
So that's interesting. And how long ago was that? When was that you sort of made that decision?
When we started dabbling in sort of doing the odd wedding. God, when was that?
2016 maybe.
Yeah.
We were doing these things on weekends, like.
Yeah, it was just doing the odd one or two every now and then. So it must have been about 2016 or so. Like we didn't properly like create the business and like and move into it in like a full-time sense until
about 3 years ago.
About 3 years ago, yeah. But we started dabbling, a year or two before that, I guess.
Okay, so that's interesting. I mean, obviously working together, how did you decide to settle on a style, and how would you describe your style of photography?
So I think we've always been really influenced by cinema, like kind of like cinematic vibe, and we definitely wanted to kind of channel that into our style.
We both kind of had a similar sort of style when we started exploring things a little bit more. Like that kind of came naturally, really. Like obviously it's evolved over time, and we've refined our approach, but we didn't come at it from like totally different styles and then have to meet in the middle. We were influenced by similar sort of things.
And our style is constantly changing as well. Like,
but it evolves, yeah.
Yeah, it's not changing dramatically, but we're always kind of tweaking it, and we're always getting inspired by different things. And we haven't been doing this for years and years and years, so I'm sure that in like 5 years' time, if we look back,
it's going to have evolved into something else. Yeah. It's important. It's important to keep learning, keep experimenting. Like where we are right now is good, and it represents us and what we're trying to achieve in our vision for a day. But I think that will always evolve. So in like 5 years' time, that's going to be something slightly different, and but that's part of like the exciting journey, right? To find out where we're going also.
Mainly though, I describe it as cinematic, emotional, nostalgic. Those are the kind of things those are like the three pillars I feel like define our work.
I mean, although we're shooting on digital cameras, digital SLRs, we're very influenced by film, and our aesthetic is more film-like.
No, that's interesting, because I think that's a similar sort of thing to me. I always joke with people that I shoot on cameras that can shoot in 4K and are very sharp and crisp and everything, and then I do everything I can afterwards to sort of wreck that a bit.
Yeah,
make it
exactly.
grainy and I don't know, and try and give it a more of an organic sort of look.
Yeah, exactly. But like, as long as you're starting from like a crisp point, then you can manipulate things it gives you more flexibility.
Yeah.
Rather than risking it all for like an old film camera, where it's like it's all or nothing.
So you've spoken a little bit about the cameras you use. What gear exactly have you settled on? Cameras, lenses, things like that?
Shall I?
Yeah,
shall I take that? Okay. All right. So we started with originally we started with a Canon 5D Mark II. That was what we started on many years ago, but we found we always struggled a little bit with getting the colours that we were wanting to achieve. So then we got this one 5D Mark IV, and were just blown away with like the difference between the Mark II. So then ended up just buying 3 more, and this is when they were brand new. So it was a pretty pricey investment at the time, and then so we ended up with 4 5D Mark IVs, then we started with what were they? The Sigma Art lenses, the prime lenses.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were a bit more affordable.
Yeah, they were a little, because we'd blown all our money on the bodies, the camera bodies. So then we started with like the Sigma Art 35, then got the 50 mils, and then eventually got the 85 mils. And this is, and so for both of us to be shooting on any of those lenses across any of the bodies. But then as time went on, we noticed particularly the older Sigma Art lenses. So the 35 was the really not great one. It would shoot really soft. So
the focus was always fell soft a lot of the time, and it was just becoming annoying. It
just wasn't right. It wasn't good enough for what we were trying to achieve. So we eventually swapped that out for
Canon.
Canon 35
Prime
1.4. Yeah, sorry, these are all 1.4s, right? Then we upgraded to the 85s, didn't we? So then we got the Canon 85 1.4.
Yeah, they were amazing.
Which were just stunning again.
But we kept the Sigma 50s because they're actually really good.
Yeah, we really like the Sigma Art 50 f1.4.
Yeah.
And then we also bought a Canon 70-200 f2.8.
Okay, so that's sort of your setup on the day. What about the software when you're editing, stuff like that? What have you settled on and why?
Yeah. I wouldn't say we're settled on this setup, because it's one of those things that we're constantly trying to optimize and improve, because the editing is such a lengthy part of the job, really. Our general process is we import everything after the wedding as quickly as we can straight into Lightroom.
Yeah.
We've over the years we've developed, and every year, or at least once a year, we develop our own preset. So we kind of import like our current version of our style, I guess. So we get a little bit of a general feel of the photos as they're importing in. So that's into Lightroom. From there, so we do the editing, and then we export to Alien Skin.
Yeah.
And then if we need to, we would use JPEG Mini if we need to compress anything. But that's usually for like I guess for like a wedding day, we wouldn't necessarily need to.
Yeah.
What would you say is your favourite part of working in weddings and being a photographer? You know, is it the day itself? Is it the editing? Where do you really think you're most keen?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah. So, to be honest, I just love editing. Actually, I think it's one of my favourite parts because I really am obsessed with the whole colour grading and getting that cinematic look. That on the day, I guess that my favourite parts of the wedding day are, I think this goes to both of us actually, doesn't it? Like the getting ready scenes.
Yeah, I think for me it's getting ready, because there's so much
you have a bit
tension and emotion going on, and you can get some really just incredible moments.
Yeah, and you can be a bit more creative. There's a bit more time. You can kind of direct a bit more. You know, we love to place the bride and the groom in kind of some beautiful window light to get that kind of chiaroscuro effect, which is just kind of that whole cinematic look, I guess.
Yeah.
It's just very brooding and romantic, and
I think it's like the part of the day. One of two parts of the day, I think, that we can like control more, like when we can really influence and direct a little bit more. Whereas for at the other part of the day being couple shots, but outside of that, it's we mainly documentary. So it's very much we're along for the ride, and we're making the best of what we can, like in the situation. But it's those two parts of the day that we can really be more creative, I think.
Yeah, and also it's like the start of the story. You know, we're all about storytelling and creating a rich narrative, and the start of that story is the getting ready, and it's capturing that tension, the body language and that kind of stuff just really is exciting. And then the couple shots we love, that's another point where you can kind of direct a bit more and think more about where you're going to place the couple and capture their, their connection.
Okay, so that's some of your favourite parts of the day. Moving on to something that's maybe a little bit harder to talk about is maybe the biggest mistake you've made at a wedding, either on the day or during the editing, or something you've learned that you think, I wish I'd known that before.
Okay.
I wouldn't say like
we make no mistakes. No.
I wouldn't say we've made huge monumental mistakes. I don't think we have, but I do have regrets. I always have regrets. Actually having a chat with videographers before the wedding, because a couple of weddings we've had it where the couple didn't tell us that they were having a videographer, and we even spoke to them the day before.
Yeah.
And they didn't mention it. So, when the videographer rocked up, we were like, oh, okay.
So now we need because we need to plan how we work together and
So I think I would definitely now always ask the couple, are you having a videographer? Even like 3 days before, because then, it's really important to get in touch and have a chat, because, I've got some first kiss shots with the videographer just right behind them.
Yeah.
And no amount of Photoshop's gonna sort that out. So I think, that's something.
I mean, there's always, not always, but there's inevitably the odd equipment, not malfunction, human error, where
I call Dan and I'm like, Dan, something's we're saying this. What do I do?
I don't know what it is about. Maybe it's like the setup of the cameras or my my fat hands or something. I don't know, but it's like I sometimes find when I'm shooting, I might nudge like the lens release button but not realize, and so I might nudge it, and then I suddenly get errors all over the camera, and I'm going, this is like okay, and
when you're at a wedding and you're in the moment and everyone's looking at you, you can't panic.
Yeah,
you have to just sort of deal with it.
Yeah.
I've done that with timer. I flicked onto timer once, and it's like, why isn't it shooting? And then realised.
So I guess those happen from time to time.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like, it's when you're in the moment and you're not quite thinking things through because you're so focused on what you're trying to achieve, and then the equipment starts.
Or is it the
wrong.
worst moment as well?
Like there's the moments when going from inside to outside or vice versa, and you're moving quickly and you spot something, you just quickly try and get something, and you realise the shutter's still adjusted for the either the inside or the outside, and it's totally black or totally white, and
One of my other ones is probably letting my guard down too soon. So if we've just shot a big moment, like the confetti shot, and it's over, and then suddenly you're just kind of flicking back through what you've got, but then you're missing something else, and I'm like, I've got to stop doing that. I've got to stop, because actually you're missing, hugs, congratulations, and it's not over yet, so you've got to keep shooting.
Yeah, I think I've learned if I think something might have gone wrong, I don't know, with one of my cameras or something in a ceremony, I've learned to just sort of not deal with it then, think, well, that's done now, move on, look at it later when I get home, but I don't start playing through footage and because what are you going to do about it at that moment? So you've just got to accept it and go, So you've spoken a little bit about having a sort of cinematic style and being influenced by that sort of thing. What would you say most influences your work? It doesn't have to be something wedding related, it can just be something, a person or a film or a photographer or a photo, what is it that influences you guys the most?
I mean, I've always been a film buff, and I've always loved art house cinema. When I used to have time to watch films, obviously now having a baby, that's just never going to happen ever again. But in my uni days, I used to watch a lot of films. So that's always been a bit of a passion of mine. And I think that's certainly influenced our kind of style. What have you got any? I mean, photographer-wise, we're really influenced by the Kitcheners. They actually photographed our wedding.
They were sort of one of the first when we were starting to get going. They were one of the first photographers that we not that we came across, but it kind of seemed to encapsulate what we were.
You know, just like when I remember the first time I ever came across their work, and I was just like blown away. I was like, wow, like this is amazing, and this is what wedding photography can be. You know, it doesn't have to be this cheesy, boring stuff. It can be really, really emotional and really like, I don't know,
dramatic
in a way, and that just blew us away. And
so that was certainly like in the early days. That was it was that kind of realization of that's what we've been trying to capture, but we just didn't quite know how to. And it kind of helped us realize, like, what are we capturing here? Like we like to capture, you know, connections, and that kind of like helped us realize that and kind of refine it. Other photographers that I personally love, some Italian photographers, wedding photographers, Cinzia Bruschini and Leila Scalfiotti. I love like their kind of editorial black and white feels, and they're kind of just a bit. They're more like documentary. So although we love the whole like fine art cinematic look, I also love documentary influences as well, and they kind of have that.
And do you look at stuff to be inspired like before weddings, or do you not find that helpful? Is it more just something you that just sort of washes over you over time, or are you sort of specifically looking at stuff and thinking, I want to try that thing, you know?
Yeah, we do. We usually have a look back over our own work and sort of have a bit of a like a retrospective on what went well, and what we could improve on, and that we found that really helps, because there's always things that you can improve, things that didn't quite work out, and like talking through and understanding why or how that didn't work is really useful.
I think in the beginning we definitely we're looking at a lot of people's work and thinking, oh yeah, that's really cool, we should try that, etc. But actually on the day you just forget it all anyway, and it's just a totally different experience. The light's different, the vibe's different, the couple are different, and you can't recreate anything really.
As our experience built, obviously things become automatic in a way. You just kind of know what you're trying to achieve and how you get there.
But I think it was useful at the beginning to kind of have that in the background, and then after a few years you're developing your own style and your own eye, and you're not really needing to kind of look for that.
That's a good point, because people can be guilty of maybe looking at an image and thinking, how did they get that, and I want to do that, and they don't know how much it was luck, how much the light was perfect on the day, how much the couple were just into it.
The connection between the couple themselves is really important. If you
and you can't fake that. No matter what you do, they're either really into each other and have an amazing connection, or they just don't, and you can't force it. You can certainly help them a bit and direct them a bit, but you can't make it look real unless it is real.
Okay, well that leads on quite nicely to what's something that you want to improve upon? Do you have things at the start of the year that you think, these are my goals, we should improve on this part of our either your business or in your work or with your equipment? What is it you think you want to improve upon most this year?
I want to, I don't know, I just think build on what we've already achieved. Your knowledge of light never ends. It's always changing, and you're always finding out new things about it. And I want to really refine that, and also composition and things like that, and learning how to just be able to compose something a bit quicker under those kind of stressful situations where you just don't have time.
The editing, editing is always improving. And how our style, that's always a bit of a goal each year. So our Lightroom catalog is just there's multi, every year there's a new preset version of our style that we build from. So we're constantly improving that. Like from a business, I guess, or a website perspective, there's always little optimizations, improvements that we're making. I spend a lot of time trying to improve our visibility, you know, trying to sort of acquire more of
our ideal couple, I guess.
like people who we think would connect with our work a little bit more. So trying to target the right couples.
Yeah. I think also from my side, I want to capture more of those family moments, like relatives and reactions and things like that. Because looking back at our own wedding photos, like those are some of the most precious photos that we have, and they're really important. So I just want to, I want to.
Yeah, because I guess everyone could be guilty of wanting to get those great couple shots because you think that's what's going to go on my Instagram or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
You've been doing this for a little while now. What would be your top tip for someone who's starting out? They're thinking about becoming a photographer, they're thinking of joining the wedding industry. What would you give them as a top tip?
I would say, like, not to worry about getting the perfect venue or like the perfect cool wedding, the perfect couple, because none of that really matters. Like, if you really just learn about light and if you have vision, you can create something amazing, even in the most like mundane kind of places, you know. So don't focus too much on that, I think. And, you know, if there are any photographers that you really love, any videographers you love, then just get in touch with them, because a lot of them are doing mentoring sessions, workshops, etc. And I think that is definitely a really good place to start. And also you meet people, and like when you start making connections with other people in the industry, like that opens so many doors. So it's not about like being coy and kind of shady about your business and stuff. It's actually about getting in touch with people, talking to people, referring work. You know, it opens so many opportunities. So like workshops, conferences, anything like that.
No, I mean, speaking of workshops, I mean, that's something I did early on. I went to a couple, and I think those sorts of things are really helpful, which is partly why we're doing something like that this year, aren't we? I mean, do you want to speak a little bit about what we're planning there?
Yeah, so we're planning a workshop to take place in Devon in the autumn. Yeah, it's a workshop for photographers and videographers.
We've decided to go for a photography and videography thing, partly because of some of the things you touched on about learning to work with each other and that sort of thing. So yeah, obviously we're hoping to bring that into it a little bit, how we collaborate, because we've worked together at weddings, so we've learned to, you know, how to work around each other, that sort of thing. But we obviously had people get in touch about the sort of things they want to learn. What do you think are the main things we're probably going to bring up at the workshop?
Learning about like using light to create more of a kind of a cinematic effect. Also couple posing, help, direction, that general kind of vibe. People struggle with a lot. And I actually love doing it. And
that's not something I particularly enjoy. Like when we're doing weddings, it's definitely Olivia who knows more of the shapes that she wants to try and position couples into. Like we never like really pose. It's we just help whatever feels like the most comfortable for the couple we're working with. That's quite important. And something that we will be looking at and covering in the workshop as well, like how to get into like a not too overly posed pose.
Yeah, and also like storytelling techniques, composition techniques.
Yeah, and something that I thought was really important as well, as that was the business side of things, which a lot of workshops I went to early on never really touched on that side of it, partly because we're all creatives and artists and that sort of thing, and that bit doesn't seem quite as interesting, but something I really thought workshops needed more of. And it's partly why I chatted with you guys, because Dan, you've got a sort of background in that sort of thing and with startups and things like that. So, what do you think people will learn from that side of things?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a part of the business that I quite enjoy, like creating startups, trying new ideas is something that I really love. So we and I'm sure many others just muddled our way through it right at the beginning. So we'll be touching a little bit on SEO, what we've learned, and how we achieved the visibility of our website and what that went through. You know, we've been through a whole bunch of iterations and versions of our website, and it took me years to understand and get to this point. So yeah, touching on SEO, how we structured the business, how we run it, how we handle client management, how we refined our techniques to speaking to and converting clients. That was really, really tough at the beginning, because we're not salespeople. We're both creative, and it just wasn't something that we felt comfortable doing. But we realized really quickly that we had to turn things around. Otherwise, we wouldn't be where we are now. We just wouldn't have survived. So yeah, so a little bit touching on that as well.
No, that's some really good information about it. If people want to learn more about that, or they just want to learn more about you guys in general and your work, where are the best places to find you, and where are the best places to contact us about the workshop?
Yeah, sure. So best places for a quick overview of us and our work would be our Instagram. If you want to find out a little bit more about how we shoot like a more complete day, we post fairly regularly on our blog, on our website, and for the workshop, we're posting on our Instagram. So that's Obscura
Workshop.
Obscura Workshop, exactly. We do have a website that we're putting together at the moment. It's we have a little promo video on at the moment on obscuraworkshop.com.
Thanks to Olivia and Dan for coming on and sharing some great insight into their work and their workflow. You can find links to their website and Instagram in the description below, as well as more information about the workshop that we have coming up together later in the year. See you in the next episode.